course, middle management from gig companies don't want drivers to get paid more. How will they keep their fat margins and their bonuses? We can't even agree as drivers that your contract rates should be higher working Christmas Day. What's wrong with yous? Drivers are becoming their own worst enemy in Australia right now. Instead of taking it to the gig companies, taking it across and being like, hey, this isn't on, you need to change things if you want to operate in our country, we're bickering with each other. So let's fix it. You, me, right now, okay? Like the video. If it gets to 500 likes, I'll kick off a petition and start to push and market a petition for us to get paid good on public holidays. So I've made a decision today, and I didn't take it lightly. I've been weighing it up for quite some time, and that decision is that I will no longer be working public holidays on gig apps unless there's change made. It's the Easter long weekend in Australia, and I made the decision that I'm not going to go out working for the gig companies because they're paying us terribly in poor conditions, considering it's public holidays. Hopefully this super groovy onesie shows that I'm all settled in at home and I'm not heading out there this weekend. Dude, I gotta take this off. It's like 30 degrees in Queensland right now. It's way too hot, bro. That's much better. It's like 30 degrees outside, and wearing a prop like that kind of sucks. But it could be an interesting thumbnail. Welcome to the mind of a YouTube creator. But back on the track of gig work, let me just run through the straw that broke the camel's back, and then my solution of what could fix this for the future if the gig companies listen. So in Australia on public holidays, everyone that's working across on traditional employment, they're getting penalty rates from their awards. So they're getting paid time and a half or double time or even double time and a half on their base wage. In gig work, that's non-existent because we're contractors, we're independent contractors, baby. You get what you get given. You smile and you shove it down your guts, you happy little contractor you. And 355 days of the year, that's completely fine. You know what? We're contracting, it's flexible work, and it generally works a lot of the time. But on them 10 odd days a year in Australia, these public holidays where everyone gets paid a lot more for showing up to work, the gig companies are not giving us any kind of incentive to be logged in. Sure, there might be a little of a peak they add in, or maybe there's a little boost Stu behinds in the background for you. But these little peaks and boosts and little things they do to try tweak up the pay, if they even happen on these days, it's not nationwide. Some areas will get it, other areas don't get it, and that's not fair. So let me paint the picture just a little bit clearer, that way we can understand what it looks like in Australia on a public holiday. In the case, we'll use a 15-year-old working at McDonald's. They're earning just over $15 per hour as a base wage generally. Then come a public holiday and it comes in on penalty rates on double time for a national public holiday. They're now earning $30 per hour. $30 an hour for a 15-year-old working at McDonald's. That's pretty good. That's not too bad. And that's the power of penalty rates from their awards. Now, when we look across to a gig worker, say doing food delivery, Uber Eats, Doordash, that's up my alleyway, so I'll talk to that. Of course, rideshare and everything else in the gig industry also this applies to. So maybe a gig worker's earning $32 per hour on a public holiday. It's the same as most other days. It's their average, pulling in $32 an hour. Now they've got to pull out their fuel from that cost for their run costs on operating the vehicle. Maybe that's around $7 for them. So we'll just use these hypothetical numbers, guys. Around $7 an hour for running their car. That brings them down to $25 per hour on a public holiday. Now, on top of that, you've got to pull out some extra costs for wear and tear on the vehicle and the other associated costs with business. Maybe in realism, maybe they're earning about $23.50 an hour. Meanwhile, 15-year-old at McDonald's is earning $30 an hour just showing up working in the restaurant, and they're not having costs coming out of that. So they're being out-earned by a 15-year-old working at McDonald's. Now, this video, guys, this is not a pride thing. This is not like, oh my God, I am so triggered and upset that a McDonald's worker is earning more than me. Nothing to do with that, guys. This is a rights video. Rights for Australian workers. Now, if you're working in any other contracting field and you got called in at an inconvenient time or on a public holiday, what happens? You're charging more for your time. How much more do you reckon a plumber or an electrician is going to charge to come out on a public holiday? How much do you think they're going to charge to come out on Good Friday or Easter Sunday? Of course they're going to up their prices. It's a public holiday. So people who said, oh yeah, it's just for awards workers. Absolutely not, guys. All contractors, if they're working on public holidays, they're upping their prices for working on a public holiday. It's not just awards, it's not just union or anything like that. This is what Australians do. This is the Australian way. This is our culture in Australia. It's to make sure for the times when people don't want to work, we are being rewarded more than fairly for that time. So I'll run through my suggestion and solution for this, and this is how it could be fixed to make it fair for delivery drivers working gig apps in Australia, and the same concept could also apply across to rideshare and any other gig work fields. It's so simple that it's almost stupid, but at the same time, other companies have done this in Australia already. And the solution is to add a 15% public holiday surcharge onto the orders. And that surcharge goes across entirely to the drivers to adjust them for their time working the gig apps on public holidays. This is not for the gig company to scrape and keep for themselves. It is purely a cost to the consumer to ensure that people working services that day for them are getting paid fairly. So let's run some numbers, some examples. Let's see how that looks. So let's assume that you normally earn $32 per hour. That's what you normally get from your offers. That's how you're churning through your orders. Now, if we're looking at a 15% surcharge on the items ordered, say you move through $150 worth of food that the customer's paying for per hour. Maybe that's across 3 deliveries. So 3 $50 deliveries per hour. Now, if you do a 15% surcharge onto that, what that looks like is an extra $22.50 that would go on top of that $32. And you might think, okay, $54.50, that's a lot of money. But let's pull it away from a McDonald's worker that's 15 years old for a second and pull it a bit more realistic towards an adult in Australia. So say if I was a hospitality worker, maybe I'm working across in the pub or something like that, and I'm earning $28 per hour. Now, public holiday comes in, I'm getting double time on the public holiday. As example, guys, double time on public holiday. Suddenly, I'm up to $56 per hour, which is comparable then at that point to the delivery driver, except the delivery driver is pulling out money for their fuel and so on and so forth. So on public holidays for costs, this is just bringing gig workers up onto a fair playing field. This is not bringing us across to become an employee. This is not bringing us across to become awards or anything like that. If anything, it adds an element of skill to the hunt for delivery drivers. If the hunt becomes that drivers are getting paid 15% of the total order value as a bonus on top of their standard contracting rates that they're getting, then the game becomes, how can I find bigger orders? Because then, as an example, say if you get one order through and it's worth $100 of food that the person's bought, that's an extra $15 you've just earned there. Maybe you get 2 of them done per hour, that's an extra $30 an hour, even better. Other end of the spectrum on the hunt is maybe you just get a whole bunch of $30 KFC orders. So that's $90 and 15% of $90 in total order volume done per hour. That's an extra $13.50 on top, still bringing the driver up if they're on $32 an hour to around that $45.50 mark. So the point is that gig workers are getting the raw end of the deal here. It's crap. It's not the Australian culture. Australians should be looking forward to working on a public holiday if they have to work because they know they're getting rewarded. Great for it. But with gig workers, we're not. We're getting paid the same and it's not adjusting up. So that's my solution, a public holiday surcharge. You think, oh, that's crazy. That will never work. That's never happened before. Well, wrong. Domino's has been doing a public holiday surcharge for a long time now. Even just on Sundays, there were 10% surcharge on a Sunday. And then when we come across the public holidays, it's 15% to 20%, depending if the public holiday lands on a Sunday or not. So guys, if Domino's, the largest food delivery company in this country, Domino's moves volume, guys. They sell so many pizzas. They've got so many delivery drivers on board doing the pizza deliveries for them. If they can introduce across a public holiday surcharge, I don't see why gig apps can't as well. And sure, the cost goes onto the consumer, but the consumers are ordering a luxury service on a public holiday. While they're lounging around and enjoying their day, if they choose to use luxury services like food delivery, they need to understand that the people working them days should be fairly compensated. And I think Australians do understand that. In Australia, we want fairness, we want equality, we want people to be paid fairly. And how is it fair if everyone else working in the service industry in the country is getting paid penalty rates for working on a public holiday, but there's no change to pay for gig workers? That's not fair, that's an imbalance. So this suggestion is to balance it back out. But unfortunately, this suggestion, when I floated around a couple of my peers in the Facebook group for Doordash drivers in Australia, some people were really riled up and against this. Don't you want to get paid more on public holidays? Well, this is the way to get it done. It's not to become an employee of these companies. It's to add an extra fee on as a contractor for the drivers to be paid correctly on public holidays in this country. One person responded when I suggested the 15% public holiday surcharge to go across to drivers. They responded back with, sounds like dashing isn't for you, bud. Oh no, maybe they're right. Maybe it just isn't for me. And I replied back. I said, you don't like the idea of being paid higher on a public holiday? But they didn't reply back. And you know what? Everyone's entitled to have their say about this. Some people are against drivers getting more pay. And I maybe felt a little bit bad for a second. I thought, oh, maybe DoorDashing isn't for me. Until I saw this is the account manager for Menulog Queensland. That's right. Middle management has entered the chat from Menulog, and they don't want drivers to get paid more. He was just in here to shit on drivers, suggesting the idea of getting paid more on public holidays. Of course, middle management from gig companies don't want drivers to get paid more. How will they keep their fat margins and their bonuses? What's the most frustrating thing though is that these middle managers who are coming into these driver groups and observing and then putting in their 2 cents and shitting on drivers, they're the ones that could actually change things for drivers, but instead they're just coming in for the lols and saying it's not for you and trying to keep drivers down. They don't want drivers to be talking together, putting ideas together, and then pushing it forward to the gig companies. For middle management at Menulog, it's all just a joke, I guess. Maybe gig work isn't for me. Well, you know what, man? Maybe middle management isn't for you. If you're working middle management for a gig company, then coming into driver groups to shit on drivers and tear them down. Someone told me to just go join the 15-year-olds and work at McDonald's. You know what, dude? Like, I don't think McDonald's is going to hire me to work 10 public holidays a year. For this dude, instead of going down the path of like, hey, we should be getting better contract rates and working together as gig workers, he's just like, just quit, go work at McDonald's. Get wrecked, bro. Someone else was like, poor baby, whinge. You know what, bro? I'm not whinging. I'm actually putting forward an idea to try change things. So how about you shut up if you don't want to be constructive? Someone else said that no one forced me to work and to suck it up, princess. Well, no one forced me to work. I didn't work. Learn to read. There was also plenty of people that were supporting the idea across, so I don't understand where people don't want to be paid more on contract. For some reason, they don't want their contract offers to go up in value on public holidays. So guys, let's just chop it up for a second, have a chat about it. So if we can't even agree in a Facebook group where I'm the moderator of the damn group, for fuck's sake, and everyone knows me in that group, if we can't agree that we should be paid more on the 10 public holidays a year that happen in Australia, if we can't agree to get paid more for 10 days, how is any other change going to happen in the gig industry? We can't even agree as drivers that your contract rates should be higher working Christmas Day. What's wrong with yous? Guys, this is Australia. This is not America. These are American companies pushing their values onto Australian workers. We need to kick back as Australian workers and say, hey, this isn't on. No, if you want to run in Australia, you have to give us something extra for working public holidays. Drivers are becoming their own worst enemy in Australia right now. Instead of taking it to the gig companies, taking it across and being like, hey, this isn't on. You need to change things if you want to operate in our country. We're bickering with each other. So that's the scenario, guys, and I want to run through one last thing with you, okay? And this is where change could happen, but it's going to come down to you. If this video gets to 500 likes, I'll know that enough people care about this and want to see a change. They want to see a public holiday surcharge that goes to the drivers to adjust their pays up in Australia. If it gets to 500 likes, I'll start a petition to start getting a change happening for this. But if it doesn't get to 500 likes, what's the point? I'm not going to waste my time with a petition that goes nowhere. I could be wrong here. Maybe everyone doesn't want to get paid more on public holidays. Maybe people want to get paid less on public holidays. Do you want to be like little Timmy from the Muppets Christmas Carol? Poor, sick, broke, cold? Or rich Ebenezer Scrooge? Or the gig companies are making all the money and just kind of looking around and be like, ha, bah, humbug. You want to get paid less or you want to get paid more? If you want to get paid more, hit the like on this video and then I'll kick off a petition if it gets to 500 likes on the video. So that means share it with your friends, share it with family, share it with other gig drivers, share it with whatever networks you have. Because if we don't have numbers and if not enough people care about it, there's no point pushing a change. Changes like this are things that the gig companies can do. They have the capability to do this. It has been done in Australia before by Domino's. Go order a pizza on a public holiday on Domino's. Have a look at the public holiday surcharges. The union's not pushing for anything like this because I'm pushing for, hey, as business people, as contractors, let's add on an extra fee which increases our contract rates. Whereas they're looking down the path of like, let's try pay more, blah, 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 and treat it more employee-like. I'm not on the employee-like mentality, guys. I'm on the contractor mentality, and as contractors, raising contract fees, adding in a surcharge to raise them fees, that's the way it's done. And guys, this is for 10 public holidays. 10 public holidays in Australia. This isn't every single day of the year that I'm talking about. These are public holidays where every other service worker is getting paid fairly for their time on a day that no one really wants to work. So let's fix it. You, me, right now, okay? Like the video. If it gets to 500 likes, I'll kick off a petition and start to push and market a petition for us to get paid good on public holidays, to add in a public holiday surcharge that goes to the driver, not to the gig company, directly to the driver. Also, guys, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? Do you want to be paid more? Do you want to be paid the same? Do you want to be paid less? Do whatever you want to do, guys. Leave in the comments, but this video needs to get to 500 likes and I'll kick off a petition and I'll make sure we get paid more on public holidays. I'll do whatever I can in my power to get that done. But that's all for today, guys. I'm not working public holidays in Australia anymore until a change is made, till we get paid fairly for working those days with a huge increase to our contract rates. That's all for today, guys. Happy Easter.